What's up, folks? Your buddy Fatalroadie. Tonight we're going to do a Raw recap. Literally, it's pretty much a recap because that's damn near everything that they showed you tonight. We have Seth Rollins and the Disciples of Pain coming out. Seth Rollins says he's going to be leading everybody to the future. Great. Then we have our first recap of the elimination match last week. After some Seth ramblings, KO comes out. Rollins warns Kevin not to get in over his head and points out the injuries to Samoa Joe and Ivar. He adds that you stand alone and you will fall alone. Owen says that he's not alone. The Viking Raiders come out. Rollins says you can't keep partners upright. Kevin Owens says, let's go. They go down the ramp. A big fight comes out. Samoa Joe comes up from behind Seth Rollins, puts him into Coquina clutch. We get a big brawl, and the faces stand. It's then announced that later on tonight, we're going to have an 8-man tag team match. Great. We then go on to our first match, Becky Lynch versus Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. Kairi Sane is at ringside. Of course, she does get involved in this match. This was a pretty good match, though. There was a lot of offense from Asuka and Lynch. They gave this match a whole lot of runtime. Asuka gets the Asuka lock in, and then a flurry of near falls. Becky Lynch hits the Uranagi. I think that's what it was. I'm not exactly sure. I was hearing a couple of different things. She gets the pin and retains her title. After the match, Shayna Baszler comes up from behind Becky Lynch, attacks her, beats her down, and then goes full Dracula and bites her on the back of the neck. What the fuck? As Becky Lynch is being helped into the back, she does pull a Monty Python and says it's just a flesh wound. We then have Mojo Rawley and Riddick Moss versus the Street Profits. About fucking time. Before the match, the Street Profits run down Mojo Rawley saying that he's riding Gronk's coattails. This is a good, albeit a quick match. Riddick Moss ended up eating the cash out from the Street Profits who get the pin. After the match, Mojo Rawley's walking up to Moss going, hey, what the fuck? And Moss rolls him up and gets the pin and is now the new 24/7 champion. Backstage, Becky Lynch says that she's going to drive herself to the hospital. She gets into the ambulance and takes off. Alright, cool. We then have MVP coming out for the VIP lounge. What the fuck? For fuck's sake, another goddamn talk segment. Jesus Christ. His guest is Drew McIntyre. Just to cut this short, MVP wants to be Drew McIntyre's manager. McIntyre says he doesn't want an ass kisser, and MVP ends up eating a Claymore kick. We then have Cedric Alexander versus Angel Garza. Zelina Vega is at ringside. We have another recap of last week with Angel Garza, Rey Mysterio, and Humberto Carrillo, in which Humberto Carrillo comes running out, starts a fight with Garza. Officials pull them apart, and we now have our match again. Zelina Vega distracts Cedric Alexander, which allows Angel Garza to get the advantage. Alexander tries to make a comeback, but Garza finishes off with a wing clipper and gets the pin. We then have a recap of Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley, which brings us to a backstage interview with Rhea Ripley, which is cut short by Sarah Logan, in which that little encounter ended up cutting short. Backstage, Lana and Bobby Lashley talk about their upcoming match with Ricochet. Sarah Logan comes out to the ring. She's pissed off and she calls out Rhea Ripley. She comes out. That's our next match. Charlotte Flair comes out to the stage to watch. This is a glorified squash match. Rhea Ripley makes short work of Sarah Logan. Ripley gets on the microphone, says she's still waiting for her answer. Charlotte Flair says, well, who says you're going to be the champion after TakeOver? Woo! And walks off. Okay, whatever. We then have a recap of the triple threat match last week with Seth Rollins, Ricochet, and Bobby Lashley, which brings us to our next match, Bobby Lashley versus Ricochet. Bobby Lashley had most of the offense through this match, but Ricochet was able to fight back, hits the 630, and gets the pin. Oi. Randy Orton comes out to a massive crowd of boos. Before he gets to talking, he's quickly interrupted by Matt Hardy. He wants to know why. After a brief history lesson by Matt Hardy, they fight. Hardy eats an RKO. Randy gets the chairs out, hits him with the one-man concerto, and walks off. And we have a recap of the Liv Morgan-Ruby Riott encounter last week, which brings us to a backstage interview with Ruby Riott. She says she's here to put Liv Morgan back into her place. What? Okay. We then have Alistair Black versus Akira Tozawa. This was a glorified squash match. Wasn't really much to it. Tozawa got beat down, got the black mass. Alistair Black wins it, gets on the microphone, talks a bunch of shit again. Alright. Becky Lynch returns from the hospital driving the same ambulance. She goes out to the ring. She's pissed off. She calls out Shayna Baszler, says that you better find me before I find you, and then walks off. We then go to our main event, the 8-man tag team match. Kevin Owens, the Viking Raiders, and Samoa Joe versus Seth Rollins, the AOP, and Buddy Murphy, who is now being called just Murphy. What? Okay. I don't know. Why are we, shortening everybody's name? Next week, KO's just going to be called Owens, I guess. Right before we get the bell, we get a brawl. Once everyone gets settled out, we start our match. This was pretty decent. I'm not a huge fan of these big multi-man matches. Just like the last time, the only really interesting part of this was when the AOP and the Viking Raiders started going at it. Because really, that's a match I'd really want to see. We're just adding people onto it, I guess. I don't know. Samoa Joe and the Viking Raiders did a suicide dive onto AOP and Seth Rollins. That looked pretty cool. There was a big brawl like all these matches have. Everybody gets their big spots in. Samoa Joe gets a coquina clutch onto Murphy. The AOP distract the referee, which misses Murphy tapping out. Seth Rollins hits a curb stomp onto Samoa Joe. Murphy gets the pin. Alright, and we end tonight's Raw. Now I know I'm usually really critical about Raw and most of what WWE is, but this was decent. It was heavy on the fucking recaps. I mean, like I always put that picture of the goldfish because I swear, the WWE think we have the memory of a fucking goldfish. It's like, oh, well, we don't know what happened 2 minutes ago. Come on, motherfucker. We could have gotten at least another match in with all these goddamn recaps. It's fucking stupid. That being said, the matches were decent. I don't really think... hold on. Let me see. No.
Oh, for God's sake.
I'm checking my show notes. There wasn't really a bad match. I really can't say there was a bad match tonight. I mean, there weren't spectacular 5-star groundbreaking, oh my god, we have to fucking see these matches. They were good matches, though. So, I will give him that. I'll say there was a good Raw. The only really bad side, the only heavy bad side is the fucking recaps. But, anyways, that'll do it for this episode of Raw Recap. Back later this week with the SmackDown review. Leave a comment down below what you thought of tonight's Raw, what you thought about this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to share and subscribe. I've been Fatalroadie. You've been awesome. Thank you very much for watching. And remember, if it's too loud, you're too old. See ya.